We're here.
Uh-huh. Charlie's warmed up.
Exactly how we planned it. Never been in here. It's a nice building.
Me either.
It's quite
Not
the room.
bad. I like the acoustics. It's got a good echo.
It does. It's very nice.
Before we proceed, we're going to be opening with a prayer from Anne Marie Askew.
Good morning, all. I just want to give honor and thanks for allowing me to be here today to open up in prayer and to give thanks to the Creator. So if anyone is wearing a hat, if they could just remove in honor and reverence to our Creator who has awoken us this morning to be here together. So, Creator, we come boldly before you this morning with thanksgiving in our heart that you gave us another day. You provided us, Creator, a place to meet, to come together for the needs of our communities, our tribal communities. And we have educators from all walks of life, from all around this world, that are here to come together, to come up with ideas, maybe policies, maybe some table work at the tribal level and at the tribal government level. Tribal consultation is very important, Creator, for our people so that they can get their needs met. I thank you for protecting us through this day. Give everyone what they need in this convention, and may everyone have traveling grace as they go back to their communities and provide what they need. In this I say a whole.
Everyone can be seated. Anishik Charlie Two Bears Strickland, who is the head singer of Unity of Nations from Mohican Tribe, for providing a beautiful opening performance to our General Assembly. Hello and welcome to the 49th Annual NIEA Convention and Trade Show. My name is Dr. Jolene Bowman, and I serve as President of the National Indian Education Association. I am Stockbridge Muncie Community Band of Mohican Indians, and at home I serve as the Vice President and on my Tribal Council and as the Director of Education, Employment, and Training. It is an honor to be here with you all, Anishik to Mohican Tribe of Indians and Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Nation, for a warm welcome to Connecticut. This week, we are on the traditional land of the Algonquin people. Through there are two federally recognized tribes in Connecticut. The lands surrounding and including Hartford were once home to many Algonquin tribes. Today, we remember our ancestors who called this land home and fought for sovereignty, battles we continue to this day. We have so many special guests with us this convention, and let's take a moment and honor another of them. Today we have Catherine Cross with us. She is a Gold Star mother, someone who has made one of the greatest sacrifices a parent can make. Thank you for your sacrifice. For those of all families and military members, we thank our Native veterans. The theme of this year's convention, Building Education Nations Through Culture, Creativity, and Critical Thought, is crucial and more relevant than ever. Supporting our youth on behalf of NIEA, we are incredibly excited to learn, share, and connect with everyone attending the convention. We also look forward to discussing possibilities of collaboration and how best to support our Native students. Thank you once again for being here and our relentless commitment to Native education. Throughout the next couple of days, we will take a few moments to appreciate our sponsors and that made this convention possible. Thank you to our platinum level sponsors, Mohican Tribe of Connecticut and the Bush Foundation, for going above and beyond in your support of Native education. Please help me show our appreciation for our platinum sponsors with a tremendous round of applause. It is now my honor to introduce Dr. Sarah Barzee, the Chief Talent Officer at the Connecticut State Department of Education, who will be providing our welcome remarks. Dr. Barzee started as a teacher, rose to become a principal, and shared her knowledge with future teachers and administrators as a professor. Today, we welcome Dr. Barzee to share with us her experiences and expertise in education and leadership. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Barzee to the stage to share a few words.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Barzee, and I'm the Chief Talent Officer at the Connecticut State Department of Education. This morning, I'm honored to be here this morning. Oftentimes, Commissioner Wenzel asks me to extend her welcome on her behalf and on behalf of the Department of Education. Today, I'm particularly happy that she was unable to be here, not for her, but for me to be able to celebrate with you in this interesting and cultural experience. It's my pleasure to welcome the National Indian Education Association delegates from across the country and beyond to Connecticut, to our capital city. We're glad you're here, and we hope you will find our state welcoming during your visit. In keeping with this year's theme, Building Education Nations Through Culture, Creativity, and Critical Thinking, I'm proud to highlight some of the work of the Department of Education as we work to develop and deploy strategies to districts across the state to ensure that each and every student in each and every classroom across our state has access to the most effective educators so that all students are prepared for college, career, and civic life. In 2016, the Connecticut State Department of Education, with our board, adopted our 5-year comprehensive plan. This plan is built on 3 pillars: high expectations for all students, great schools, and great teachers and leaders. The third goal, great teachers and leaders, is the goal we are committed to by reaching through ongoing support of continuous improvement of our educators through high-quality, job-embedded professional learning and job-embedded supports, so that each can continue to enhance their practice throughout their careers in order to provide our students with the most positive academic and non-academic outcomes possible. Connecticut has extraordinary teachers who have the power to motivate and engage students in ways that change lives. While students in many schools across our state are achieving at levels among the highest achieving nations in the world, we still struggle to meet the needs of some students, and some students are falling further and further behind. In order to deliver on the promise of a high-quality education to each and every one of our children, we must ensure that all students, regardless of race, income, or the zip code in which they reside, have equitable access to an excellent educator. And we are taking steps to provide educators with the resources and supports that they need to enable their students to reach their fullest potential. We are making strides toward 100% of Connecticut teacher and leader preparation programs meeting new, rigorous program and outcome standards. Ensuring that high-quality, relevant support and mentorship is being provided to our early career teachers, and assisting school districts to develop and implement a standards-based, high-quality system for professional learning and development. We are working diligently to increase the racial, ethnic, and linguistic diversity of Connecticut's educator workforce such that it more closely mirrors the racial, ethnic, and linguistic makeup of our student population. We're working closely with education stakeholders, including current and former educators, to identify, recognize, and most importantly, honor our most outstanding educators to serve as visible, vocal representatives of what is best in this profession. We do this through many recognition programs, including our Paraeducator of the Year, who we honored right here yesterday at Kennelly School in Hartford. Marisol Rodriguez is an outstanding educator in her role as a paraeducator. Next week, we will recognize our 2019 Teacher of the Year, an educator from Bridgeport, Connecticut at Harding High School. Each year, the Connecticut Teacher of the Year and the 3 finalists serve as teacher ambassadors for public education, working on various advisory committees, presenting workshops, and speaking at education conferences, addressing student, civic, university, and governmental groups. In fact, one of our strongest supporters and stakeholders of our Teacher of the Year program is Beth Regan, your keynote speaker. A former educator from Tallinn for nearly 4 decades, Beth has facilitated the Mohegan Tribe's partnership with the Connecticut Teacher of the Year program, creating curriculum and lessons on Mohegan history and culture for districts across our state to implement as part of their education. I would like to especially thank Beth for her ongoing support and partnership, and to the Mohegan Tribe for their gracious hosting of our annual Premier Educational Conference for Educators, the Empowered to Lead Symposium. Sponsored by the Connecticut Teacher of the Year Council with heavy support from the Mohegan Tribe and specifically Beth, as well as an annual professional development series that's open to all district teachers of the year on the day following the conference. Both programs have provided opportunities for teacher leaders, administrators, and other educators to articulate and enhance their collective power, expertise, and experience, including interactive sessions that promote the sharing of ideas and resources, innovative strategies and solutions, and collaborative discourse and practices geared toward elevating our profession. As Chief Talent Officer, it makes sense that I would spend so much of my time this morning focusing on our efforts to ensure every student has a great teacher and leader in their schools. However, when we talk about ensuring equity and excellence for all students, we also know that engaging families plays a critical and essential role in student success. We recognize the need for authentic opportunities for meaningful parental engagement by building capacity for schools and families to partner effectively to support student success. Every federal and state program that concerns children, from early childhood, elementary, secondary, and community education to health, juvenile justice, and welfare, provides guidelines and requirements about reaching out to families and communicating with families. Yet there still exists no clear and consistent definition of what that means, or even what it is called. This inconsistency has created confusion and unpredictable practice at a time of growing understanding that closer collaboration with families is vitally important to student success. In Connecticut, we are introducing a new framework to establish a common definition of family engagement, to encourage shared understanding and collaboration, making it easy for all parties, educators, providers, partners, and families, to understand what is expected of them and what effective practice looks like. With our partners at the Connecticut Office of Early Childhood and the Connecticut Early Childhood Funders Collaborative, we've joined with parents, educators, and communities to co-create a common definition, framework, and guiding principles for advancing state and local family engagement efforts across our state. As we roll out our engagement framework over the next several weeks, the hope is that there will be a robust culture of partnership between families and professionals throughout education and our human service programs. All of the work we are doing at the State Department of Education is intended to move us closer to equity and excellence in our Connecticut educational system, to ensure that each and every student, regardless of gender, race, ethnicity, family wealth, zip code, or disability status, is prepared with the knowledge and the skills they will need to succeed in college, career, and civic life. I would like to thank you today for the opportunity to be here with you to offer a welcome on behalf of our Commissioner, our State Department of Education, my colleagues back at the department, and to welcome you to Hartford and our state. Again, I would be remiss if I didn't say another thanks and appreciation to Beth and the Mohegan Tribe. We consider them partners, friends. Our Teacher of the Year Council could not do the work that it does in professional development and honoring and recognizing our profession and specifically our district teachers of the year without their generous support, collaboration, partnership, and friendship. So Beth and the Mohegan Tribe, thank you. Welcome. I hope you all have a wonderful conference. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am Robin Butterfield from the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska with ancestry from White Earth, Minnesota. And it's my pleasure to thank our speaker this morning for her greetings and her words of information. It's exciting to hear how you're partnering with tribal communities. And it's also extremely exciting to hear about your efforts to increase family engagement, because as we all know as Native people, our families were intentionally removed from the educational progress early on when our children were sent off to boarding schools. So it takes a lot of work to re-engage our families and make sure that they know how important they are to the education of our children. It's my honor this morning to introduce our fellow board members who are going to be presenting information about the progress of our organization. NIEA has had a tremendous year of growth and expansion, both organizational infrastructure and service delivery, which has been one of the pillars of our organization that we have never had the financial resources to do in the past. From implementation of ESSA to advocating on behalf of our schools within the administration and Congress, to direct service delivery in our communities, NIEA has heard your call to be more member-driven. Our president, treasurer, and executive director are here to provide you with updates. So join me in welcoming back to the stage Dr. Jolene Bowman, who is going to start it off with our president's report.
I gotta move the mic, it feels like it's shooting right at my chest. Well, good morning. As Robin shared, my name is Dr. Jolene Bowman, and as I shared earlier, I am a citizen of the Stockbridge-Muncie Community Band of Mohican Indians, and I'm the Tribal Council as our Vice President, and I also am the tribe's Director of Education, Employment, and Training. I come before you today as President of the National Indian Education Association. Thank you all for attending NIEA's 49th Annual Convention. I have been honored to consult, visit, and listen to all the Native education stakeholders, tribal leaders, Native students, and others who strive tirelessly to advocate for the needs of our communities and students. Over the last year, I have felt a deep connection with all of you. As we have shared our goals, not only for our organization, but also for our Native education. Our efforts to translate our goals into action and results have spawned many successes. 2018 has been a transformational year in pursuing our commitment to Native education, students, tribal sovereignty, and the federal trust responsibility. We have acted on our mission of educational excellence for all Native students through progress on our 10-year strategic plan with 7 pillars. I want to talk to you today about work we are doing to fulfill our strategic plan. While some of this work may not fall directly under one of NIEA's strategic plan's 7 pillars, it is at the very heart of the strategic plan, which is partnership. NIEA is at an extremely extraordinary stage in its history. We have focused on engaging directly with communities that we serve to support localized advocacy and education. We cannot do this without developing a strong partnership between our members and our organization. In this effort, we have expanded our national and state partnerships. Some of our new and renewed partnerships include the National Indian Child Welfare Association, the National Congress of American Indians, the National Indian Head Start Association, the Tribal Education Department's National Assembly, the National Johnson O'Malley Association, the Oklahoma Council on Indian Education, the Wisconsin Indian Education Association, and the Native American Indian Education Association of New York, to name just a few. And we look forward to adding more partnerships to this list in the coming year. By increasing and renewing our partnerships, we are providing members with expanded opportunities to be involved with NIEA and are ensuring you, our members, are being heard at every level. In our effort to build collaborative networks between our partners and members, your NIEA board continues to fulfill its promise from previous conventions to come directly to you. Over the last year, we have launched state programming in Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and New York. Later this year and into 2019, we will inaugurate our state programming in New Mexico and Alaska. During 2018, our state-launched meetings were held in conjunction with statewide Native Education Associations. During these meetings, we led workshops on what advocacy looks like, parent and community engagement, community-focused strategies for education equality, and community asset mapping. As part of that work, I'm excited to announce the inaugural year of the Native Control of Native Education Initiative, a cornerstone of our strategic plan's pillar to build skilled teachers and leaders. Our Native Educators Education and Development Committee created a series of workshops to strengthen the Native community vibrancy through teacher education, development, and fellowship. Please consider joining one of these workshops. Today at 10:30, moving towards Native community vibrancy through teacher education and development. Today at 1 p.m., uplifting Indigenous knowledge and practices in teacher education. Tomorrow at 1 p.m., lifting our voices for Native teacher education, creating a Native professional educators network. By exchanging knowledge and experience, teachers and educational stakeholders can work together across all Native communities to uplift Native students and families. Our work is not possible without the cooperation of many organizations and individuals. I want to take time to thank you, the State Native Education Association, Native education leaders, and everyone else who has made this work possible. Specifically, those organizations who committed this work possible, who made this work possible, specifically partnering with us through Memorandum of Understandings. With these MOUs in place, NIEA stands for ever ready to provide support for local, state, and regional advocacy efforts, produce needed communication materials, and provide access to technical advice. Together, we can ensure Native education is a priority today and in the future. We have a long history of partnerships across Native communities. Today, we partner to build a better education system for our students. Our partnership is sparked from the hope that learning and advocating together will strengthen our tribes, communities, and families. As we work together over the next year, I look forward to following the progress in Native education across states and Native communities. Our board and staff will continue to partner closely with tribal leaders, community members, and education stakeholders to expand high-quality educational opportunities for Native students. I encourage you all to use this convention as an opportunity to do something similar. Think about how we can learn and support each other to expand educational excellence for future generations. Thank you to all our members who lent their voices in this year's Constitution and bylaws revisions. Engagement is essential for the health of our organization, precisely because our efforts are driven by you, our members. We appreciate the time you took to consider the critical issues under consideration. Based on members' input, these decisions will instrumentally shape the organization's direction for years to come. Throughout this convention, I have felt palpable love for education and Native communities for each of you. From each of you, we will forever be united by our passionate efforts to ensure Native education remains a priority, and our shared efforts to support our Native students in reaching their highest potential. Anishik, thank you. Please welcome Marita Hines to the stage to issue her treasurer's report.
Wawatamo, good morning. Thank you, President Bowman. The next few slides gives a financial update as of August 31st, 2018. This slide shows a summary of NIEA's year-to-date income and expenses as of August 31st, alongside NIEA's full-year budget. Overall, NIEA has already exceeded its total revenue budget for the year, primarily due to grant revenues. Membership and convention revenues have fallen short of budget for a variety of reasons, including the location of this year's convention and members choosing to skip the convention in order to attend next year's 50th anniversary in Minneapolis. Organization grants revenue is comprised of a 3-year, $750,000 grant from the Novo Foundation that was awarded earlier this year, as well as $75,000 one-year grant from the Walton Family Foundation. Release of temporary restricted grants revenue is the amount of temporarily restricted grants funds that have been spent so far this year. These grants are from the Gates Foundation, NCAI, and the Kellogg Foundation, and the Novo Foundation. Travel cost and convention and other consultant costs exceed budget due to grant-funded activities that were not contemplated in the 2018 budget. These two pie charts show revenue and expense activity by type. As shown in the first pie chart, a significant percentage of NIEA's revenue to date is from private foundation grants. Convention memberships and individual contributions represent a smaller source of income for the organization this year. The second pie chart summarizes NIEA's expense activity, with staff salaries and benefits making up about half of the organization's total expenditures. Currently, approximately 65% of NIEA's salary and benefits are paid for out of grant funds. These charts show overall revenue and expense by class or program. Once again, grant-funded activities comprise a significant percentage of NIEA's revenue and expenditures this year. Other activities such as convention, membership, etc., represent a smaller percentage of NIEA activities. Overall, we are forecasting a strong year in terms of cash flow. In the not-too-distant past, NIEA relied on access to a line of credit in order to meet working capital needs during certain periods. But 2018 will be the third year in a row in which NIEA has been able to generate sufficient cash flow from operations, including grants, to fund 100% of the working capital needs. This should be celebrated. Especially as we move into the 50th anniversary. Ways to build Indian education nations. Here are several different ways to build education nations: by donating at niea.org, to donate through the Amazon Smile program by using smile.amazon.com, become a sponsor for the 2019 50th Anniversary Convention, support the Youth Native Writers Essay Contest by giving to the National Educator Endowment Fund and with membership engagement. Let's celebrate Native education and 50 years of NIEA. Thank you, and see you in Minneapolis. And now I'd like to invite Anawake Rose, the president, the executive director of NIEA. Anawake.
Thank you, Marita. I had a gift this morning, or a few days ago, from Diana Canoyer, who gifted me with this skirt, and I'm still having a hard time walking in it, so if you see me tripping, I'm sorry. But I'm really blessed for it. So as Marita said, she didn't give me a promotion. I am the ED of NIEA. Dr. Bowman and Robin Butterfield are more than welcome to have the title of president. I'm Cherokee and Creek. I'm from Oklahoma, and thank you so much for welcoming us so generously to your lands. Beth and the Mohegan tribe, thank you so very much for your generous support. We're very, very lucky to be here and to be celebrating with you this very special convention. It's our 49th annual convention. And we're in Connecticut, and it's raining, and we're really far from home. And we had a hurricane, again, just hit where we were last year. And so thank you all for taking that time to be away from your homes, to be away from your families, your schools, the places where you're doing really important work, to be with us. We really appreciate your dedication to NIEA, because it's only through you, through the time that you spend with us, that we're able to continue to grow and make the momentous change that you've entrusted in us to lead. For many of us, the last 18 months have been very hard. In the face of challenges to our sovereignty and ways of being, it's important for us to remember the successes of our students and the successes of our communities. The theme for this year, Building Education Nations Through Culture, Creativity, and Critical Thought, could not be more appropriate. Please relax with us over the next few days. Please laugh with us. Please play with us. You're a part of the NIEA family, and we invite you to join us over the coming days. Nearly 50 years ago, a prolific group of forward-thinking Native educators gathered in Minneapolis to establish the National Indian Education Association. They founded this organization to challenge the status quo and to demand that Native people have direct authority and responsibility for the education of their children. Our first success was the passage of the Indian Self-Determination and Education Assistance Act in 1975. This groundbreaking legislation expanded tribal sovereignty over our education systems. And some of you here today worked for many years to push this act. If you were part of that founding, the writing, or the implementation of the ISDEA, could you please stand so we can recognize the hard work that you did to make this pass? I know some of you are even in my board. Chris Bordeaux, our founders. Thank you so much. It's from that foundation that we continue to build and stand, so please continue to recognize these important folks that were forward-thinking enough to know that self-determination of our education systems are the only ways that we're going to continue to succeed. But ISDEA was just the beginning. Through the years, NIEA has joined hands with Native educators, leaders, and advocates to create landmark legislation that's expanded pathways for tribes to directly operate their own schools, has ensured that Native languages can be taught in all of our classrooms, and has established funding and resources to guarantee that teachers can create lesson plans that reflect the students that they serve. Standing here today, we are descendants of this legacy. Your engagement with NIEA has provided the foundation for our federal advocacy, reflecting the voices, values, and leadership of communities across the country. Today, we see that this foundation has grown. The passage of the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, has brought with it hard-won victories to support tribal consultation and Native control of Native education systems. We all know that it takes years to pass legislation that supports Native education in communities, and too often we fight for years to advance a bill that's only to drop the ball once it gets passed. Unless we have Native-specific language, implementation is a challenge in our communities. And ESSA, more than any other law, has turned control over our education systems to the states. We need to make sure we take full advantage of every flexibility that ESSA has provided and meaningfully engage with states and school districts over the long term. Together, we can envision and realize systems of education that provide excellent support for student achievement while honoring Native languages, cultures, and histories. We can use the tools in ESSA to create innovative, culture-based classrooms where Native students thrive and have the opportunities to succeed. Implementation began with the approval of state plans in late September. And at this point, every state plan has been adopted except for the Bureau of Indian Education. And we all know how I like to pick on them, but I'm gonna save that for just a minute. We'll come back and focus on the states first. To ensure that the states are fulfilling their responsibility under ESSA, we've launched our state strategy work. NIEA has brought a phenomenal staff together to help support and carry the legacy of those that gathered in Minneapolis almost 50 years ago. Through engagements with tribes and local stakeholders, our staff has developed targeted resources that provide direct and tangible results for Native communities. Through this new work that's exemplified NIEA's first ever state launches in New York, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin. Hosted through partnerships with state Indian Ed organizations, these events featured advocacy training to ensure that tribal leaders and educators are fully equipped to defend the excellent and equitable education of Native students under ESSA. When we began this shift to direct engagement with tribes and states, we recognized that our work must be fully informed by the voices in the communities. To ensure that, NIEA has conducted a series of sessions with tribal leaders and educators and advocates to assess existing resources. And through these ongoing conversations, NIEA engages communities to determine how we can support them in the development and implementation of ESSA. These sessions directly shaped our work. But what if you're not in New York? What if you're not in Alaska and we haven't launched within your state yet? NIEA over the past year has provided comments in 8 states on their ESSA plans. We've developed guides to be utilized nationwide. NIEA and our staff is ready to provide any support that you need. So please call us. Please let us know. If your state is not doing what it's supposed to do, we want to be there to make sure that you have the support and resources for your schools and your communities. Under ESSA, tribes took a critical step towards realizing our founders' vision and expanded tribal sovereignty in our public school systems. States and school districts are required to consult with tribal nations regarding ESSA implementation and funding, reflecting one of the most critical achievements for our tribal communities under this law. In order to ensure appropriate consultation at all levels of public instruction, we've developed a series of resources, including consultation guides, to provide guidance to states and school districts on strategies to engage our communities. Though some states and school districts struggle with meaningfully engaging tribal communities, we have seen critical wins. One of the most remarkable successes comes from my home state and one of my tribes, Muskogee Creek Nation. Muskogee Creek determined that the best way to know what their schools were doing is to demand that they come to their lands. So they put out a call for every school within their land base to come to them, to meet them in their tribal headquarters, and to let them know what was happening. School district officials arrived not with requests for additional funding, but for requests for cultural and language resources to fully support Native students. In exchange for that, Creek Nation now has information and data on how every dollar of funding is being spent within their schools. All of our tribes and all of our communities can and must demand the same. Now back to BIE. One of the most important questions facing Native communities comes from the regulations for ESSA being implemented within the Bureau of Indian Education. And as we consider implementation of ESSA, it's critical to remember that BIE has yet to adopt the official guidelines for standards, assessments, or accountability under ESSA, or to finalize a state plan for implementation. That makes them 1 year delayed. 1 year more that our students are being left behind. The BIE is now in the midst of a negotiated rulemaking process to develop these guidelines for an education system. The guidelines developed through the current rulemaking have the potential to provide pathways and models for tribes to build capacity and continue to build and exercise their sovereignty. Yes, thank you. This is where I go off script and Adrian's like, oh no. We all need to remember our treaties specifically called for education. And as far as I know, Cherokee and Creek Nations treaties did not say only where BIE schools exist. Yay. So whether your tribe has a BIE school on their lands or not, funded, tribally controlled, whether your school has a BIE system or not, please engage in this negotiated rulemaking process. If we envision BIE as the carrier of the trust responsibility for Native education, it's critical that we all engage in this process. Because as you think about the resources that you need for tribal assessments, tribal standards, it should be the BIE that's assisting you and providing you these resources. Whether you have a public school on your land, a charter school on your land, an immersion school on your land, BIE should be the place where you can turn for tribal resources, as they are the ones in charge of carrying out the trust responsibility for our students, BIE school on their lands or not. Please engage in this process. Okay, now back to my slides, and I'll stick to script, sorry. Okay. Implementation, no matter how effective, does not work, though, if we don't include teacher development. So we can focus as much as we want on ensuring the states are consulting, ensuring that the states are doing what they're supposed to do, but there's other pieces that we need to be responsible for when it comes to ESSA development, and one of them is teachers. Through our state engagement, NIEA has been focusing a lot on what it means to make sure that we have teachers in our classroom. We all know that almost every year it's hard for us to even start schools in some places because we don't have folks to fill those classrooms. So NIEA was told, actually, by our membership, figure this out. So we launched the Native Teacher Recruitment Campaign. And as part of that, we launched the teacher recruitment website to support our schools in searching for effective educators. And as of October 1st, nearly 300 schools and 50 hiring managers have joined the job board, and we have connected over 80 teachers to schools and open positions. We also need resources. So to assist your schools with that, we've developed a culturally relevant education model through our online, that's a lot of words, I'm sorry, through our online resource repository. NIEA provides free and open access to cultural curriculum, lesson plans, and tools that will utilize project-based learning methods for teachers. We've also provided trauma-informed care strategies and solutions for Native educators. Since developed, teachers have rated the training that we've provided the best of any educator working for Native students and have reported it to be a must-have. And in the state that we launched it in, the teachers are actually requesting in Oklahoma that it become a must-have for all teachers. But implementation is more. It's also about data. Too often, our data pieces are overlooked. We have drilled down deep to show the strengths and challenges that our students are facing through the data. We know how our children are performing, and now we can share that information more effectively with our states. Over the past year, NIEA has developed 15 state profiles that detail critical information on student achievement and well-being, as well as showing the overall landscape for Native education. Implementation is a really long process. These states are going to be having these plans for the next 10 years, and we want to fight with you over the next 10 years to ensure that they're doing it in the right way. So through this conference And we're centered on creativity, and we really want you to celebrate and be a part of the NIE family. We would be remiss about talking about issues that are larger and greater than just education in our schools. Because now more than ever, we all need to stand together as tribes, stakeholders, and communities, because our sovereignty is under attack. Last week, our Native communities experienced a huge blow. Our district judge struck a major decision declaring the Indian Child Welfare Act unconstitutional. NIA, in partnership with the National Indian Child Welfare Association, the National Congress of American Indians, the Native American Rights Fund, and the Association of American Indian Affairs, and other national Native organizations issued a joint statement strongly condemning the decisions and rejecting any opinion that separates our children from our families. Tribes in North Dakota are facing a Supreme Court decision to uphold strict voter identification rules that require a permanent address. Due to high rates of homelessness and Native voters utilizing P.O. boxes rather than residential addresses, this ruling is going to have a disproportionate and significant impact on our communities in North Dakota. And this is just before a highly contested race for Senator Heidi Heitkamp, an incumbent, and her challenger, Representative Kramer. These events follow on the heels of the Department of Interior's decision to remove land into trust for Mashpee Wampanoag. Aside from the national disgrace of removing land from the people that we have come to know of as first contacts, this decision directly impacts the tribe's ability to self-govern, to develop tribal revenue, and to maintain a language immersion school that is one of the best in the nation. While individually these attacks might not be something that we talk about at NIA, we need to be clear that together they show a direct attack on who we are as Native people. Because the purpose of protecting Title VI and impact aid is directly aligned to the protection of the sovereignty and the trust responsibility, we now need to, more than ever, collectively stand together, work with organizations inside and outside of our education communities to protect and watch over our sovereignty. Please, over the next 18 months, 2 years, make this a priority in your communities. We have to be watching every court case, every decision, every single action as a direct attack upon our sovereignty, and bring it together as our membership and stand united in this fight. So because I can't leave you on a downer, although yes, stay charged, I do have to say, right, as we continue to fight, we also continue to move forward. We can't stay stagnant, and we do need to continue to celebrate because it gets really hard to continue to fight these challenges every day. I realized a few months after the election that the first thing I was doing every morning was waking up and looking at Twitter, and I realized maybe I was having a little PTSD because you were scared about what you were going to see every morning, right? So you have to put that down because you have to move forward and you have to move past that and you have to be excited because the only way I can keep getting up in the morning is to find something to continue to be happy about. And so for us and for this week, I hope that continues to be happy about NIA. So please, go be a Native education superhero. Take your selfies and post your pictures and celebrate each other and celebrate the love that we come together with as NIA's family. I have more than anything enjoyed watching the growth of this organization and the members enjoy and love themselves at this convention. As the ED, I'm often concerned about the financial responsibilities of the organization. But my past presidents have frequently reminded me that the convention is more than a revenue generator. The convention is a place where you call home. The convention is a place where you come together to recharge because you have been fighting these fights all year long. So thank you for continuing to recharge me as I come here, and I hope that you find that over the next few days. Wado. Dr. Bowman, I think you're back up now.
Thank you, Marita and Anna Wake, for your reports to our members. I would like to welcome our incoming board president, Robin Butterfield, back to the stage.
Oh, I hope I can get through this. I was asked on behalf of the board to make a few comments about our executive director because she's leaving us. And 13 years ago, when I was in Washington, D.C., working for the National Education Association, part of my job was to reach out to all the other national organizations on behalf of NIEA, the National Education Association. And in that process, I got to meet some incredible leaders of organizations, but I was particularly impressed with Anna Wake Rose. She's a young leader who is smart, as you just heard, extremely articulate, grounded, informed about Indian legislative issues, and great potential for more responsibility. At that time, she was working for NCI, and we were searching for a good leader for our organization. And after some soul searching and a lot of persuasion, Anna Wake agreed to come on as our executive director. That's been about 5 years ago, 5+ years ago. So when NIEA needed her leadership the most, she stepped up in a big way. I think you can tell from the reports that you've heard from our staff, you know, our budgets are better, our services are increased, our commitment is redoubled, our reputation is sound across the country at the national level, and now moving more down into the state level. So NIEA has grown far beyond what I could have imagined at that time when Anna Wake walked through our doors. From a deficit budget, you know, to over, I think after February, we're getting another 2-year grant from Gates for $1.6 million. So we have grants from Gates, Walton, Kellogg, the U.S. Department of Education, the BIE, Novo, and more. And that's all because of the intensive work of Anna Wake and the staff. We have incredible staff. So as you see them working the convention, please thank them for the service that they're providing for you. So I'm probably telling on myself in terms of my age, but out of the 50 conventions, I've only missed 3. And so I remember the Minneapolis conference, the Albuquerque conference that was next, the Seattle conference, and so forth. So I'm saying that only to say that I've had the incredible opportunity to interact with a lot of wonderful leaders over the years, and all of our executive directors have contributed to sustaining and building our organization. And the 4 sort of key goals have been advocacy, communication, coordination, and technical assistance. And it's only been in the last 5 years that we have really been able to start offering technical assistance, because we now have some of the financial resources and the support of foundations and organizations. You've been getting, as you've heard, legislative alerts, we've got webinars, we've got direct TA service through ESSA, We have publications, which we didn't have before. We just have so much more that we often don't hear about, as members, unless you're, reading your regular communication. So it breaks my heart to have to let Anna Wake go. But her journey, and I'm going to let her sort of tell you what she's doing next, but her journey is taking her to an even higher calling, which she can explain to you. So without further ado, assist me in thanking Anna Wake Rose for her incredible heavy lifting, her enthusiasm and love for NIEA, her service and passion, and all that she's done for all of us. So, Anna Wake, would you please come to the stage?
Thank you. Robin asked me to be the director of NIA over lunch at Thai food. And I said, no, I couldn't do it. And she said, please. And then I have a couple of more friends that promised to always stand with me. There is no way anyone does this job without 12 folks standing behind them and mentoring them and supporting them every single day. So thank you so much for everything that you've done for me, because I could not have done any of this without the board and previous board presidents. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And I leave you in incredibly good hands. Your interim ED, Diana Canoyer, could not be a more perfect person to continue to lead the organization and where it needs to be. So please continue to support her as she does this, because she's very, very nervous / excited to be doing this work. So thank you. So you know what I'm doing next. I'm going to the National Congress of American Indians to be the deputy director. Thank you, Erin. And I do this because of what I said in my speech earlier. I'm worried. I'm really worried. And if any of my backbone or fight or tenacity, or some of you know it to maybe be another word, can lend strength and support to continue to fight for our trust responsibilities and our treaty obligations, then I am more than willing to engage on that in a day-to-day battle for you. And that's what I'm hoping to continue to do. So, let's go kick some ass. Thanks.
Well, that was a little sidebar that Anawake didn't know about on our script. Usually she's a lot like me, a taskmaster. She keeps us on point, so we're so thankful for that. So it is my honor to welcome our first keynote speaker of the convention, Beth Regan, who is a citizen of the Mohegan Tribe of Indians of Connecticut. Beth Regan sits on the Mohegan Tribal Council of Elders and serves as their Secretary in Justice. Over her 35-year career as a teacher of Toland, Connecticut High School, she specialized in Native American Studies and Russian history. Beth has created curriculum and lessons on Mohegan history and culture for Connecticut teachers of all grade levels to incorporate into their instruction. Her work has earned her many citations as Teacher of the Year. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in History and Education, as well as a Master's degree in Human Relations from Eastern Connecticut State University. A longtime member of the Mohegan Board of Education and a current member of the Mohegan Tribe Language Committee, she resides in Hampton, Connecticut. Please join me in welcoming Secretary in Justice Regan.
Tall. Anawake, I have to start by saying rock on. I love your attitude. Katapatamon tamawish, katapatamon tamawish. Not tiowish yon pawe no yoch wichi mhiganats, wig woman. Now, more than ever, folks, more than ever, we heard it, it's up to us. It's up to us. I have to tell you, I have learned through my journey as a Native educator, no one can do it for you, nor should they, with no disrespect aimed toward our Native allies and teachers. A sense of credibility is brought to our classrooms when we as Native teachers teach our history, our culture, and our Native ways. When we teach in our Native communities, but also in our non-Native communities, as I did for 35 years. Connecticut, we do not have BIE schools. We have to make our inroads in our local and in our public schools. But when we teach there too, it is real. When we are the ones that write our stories and tell our stories, it is trustworthy. It's not easy or simple, but then again, neither is teaching. But today, more than ever, it's up to us. It's up to us. My experience as a career high school teacher for over 35 years showed me that showed me that Native history and culture, next slide, I don't know how because I can't see it, were absent and invisible. I'll give you the thumbs up. Absent and invisible from our classrooms. We were invisible always, it seemed to me, even though Native students may have been seated in my classrooms. As far as lessons and curriculum were concerned, we're missing. We had been written out of history. This is why, before I even share more about this with you, I want to first thank my ancestors.
Katapatamon tamawish wamiskitampak. And I need to ask them for their guidance and support. Especially for their forgiveness, should I speak incorrectly. It is not my intent, and I ask that they watch over me. Additionally, I want to recognize some of our Mohegans here today. First, our chief and some of our counselors are traveling, and we're with USET, working on that very ICWA issue and all the other issues that you heard Anawake say. So they are there. But I do want to recognize Nisnatea, Bruce Bosom, a former tribal counselor and now serves with me on the Council of Elders, and some of our Mohegan presenters here today, too. Okay, Paula Smith, and David is with her as well, David Scatta, that we will be presenting. So I want to thank them very much. Unfortunately, we have organizations like the NIEA. We can go on. That's why they call it Uncasville. I wanted to make sure you knew. My ancestors, thank you. But fortunately, next slide, we have the NIEA. I loved this screenshot. Okay, I had to use it. Many thanks, Katapatamon, to the NIEA for their advocacy on behalf of Native educators, all Native students and families. Your work ensures that our communities remain vibrant in educational development of our young people within a cultural context. That is key. So Katapatamon Tamawish, thank you. Thank you for asking me here today. Thank you for being here today. Okay. Thank you for being here on our homelands. I enjoyed meeting many of you last night as well. I'm so appreciative of all of you that are present here today, because we are going to be the exceptions to what I saw the reality of absent and invisible. You are the role models. You are the teachers and administrators, the authors, the elders, the parents, the advocates. Still, nonetheless, our stories are often and frequently told from someone else's viewpoint, or as if we were all the same. We may share common values, but we're still unique, as is evident right here in our room today. Look at that map. We used to be given some of these maps. I have a pet peeve with some of these maps. Okay. Culture region, I used to tell my students, you just can't walk like, oh, I'm in the other culture region now. Okay? So really, all right, we predate those states. Get them off the map. Okay, I'll be good. I'll try to be good. Okay. You can see there's still so much work to be done. We're not just culture regions or little blurbs on the map. So it is up to us. That hit me really hard as a high school history teacher. Imagine, look at this next slide. Imagine teaching this. I didn't even want to put this up, but I had to. Imagine teaching American history decades ago, and even some today. Topics such as discovering America, Columbus Avenue, you're right near it. The Pocahontas myth, the myth of the first Thanksgiving, manifest destiny. Yes, they really still do teach that. I was just at a school last Friday doing a talk, our local schools again. I try to get to as many as I can, as often as I can. There was an American history teacher sitting there, and I said, you tell them, you do teach that. You put that, I know you put that picture on the screens. And she said she knew. They do still teach it. Indian Wars, Custer's Last Stand, Wounded Knee. You get the picture. I had to change that story. I had to tell our story. I was driven to change the voice and correct the falsehoods, at least in my world. That's how we are in Connecticut, at least in my school. I talked to my principal, who supported me back in 1999. And I sought the help of my Mohegan tribe, our medicine woman, our historian, our ceremonial leaders, our cultural people, and especially our elders. I decided with their help, there we go. I want you to keep that slide for a minute. I decided with their help to write a curriculum. And by 2001, my school, Tolland High School, just a couple miles up the road, became the first and only school in the state of Connecticut to offer a full credit course in Native American Studies totally devoted to Native American people, a course solely dedicated to us, and it was taught by a Native American woman. Yes. Sadly, to the best of my knowledge, it may still be the only school, and it is no longer taught by a Native American woman. And I don't say that with disrespect. I just remember what I said about it's different. It's just different. It became one of the most popular classes in our school. Students were saying among other positive comments, you'll like this. Finally, it's not whitewashed. Okay? I brought them to our reservations. I brought them to Pine Ridge. I brought in guest speakers, ceremonial people from the East and the West. They really want to learn, people. They really do. Native and non-Native, they want to learn. I still find that prevalent today when I travel to all the schools in our state to teach lessons or conduct professional development. For educators, or when my Mohegan tribe brings educators to our reservation. For PD, you heard our State Department person say how we partnership and give them grants. I'm going to show you, if you're a Connecticut educator, how to apply for one of those grants. There's a screenshot of our webpage, www.mohegan.nsn, as you know, right? Okay? You go to that home page. You see where it says community on the top. You click that button, and it will say challenge grant. Okay? Because most people and teachers want to know. They feel inadequate. Okay? Or do not know if they're doing it right, teaching it right, which is just one of the reasons why we have this. And we share a relationship that continues a long Mohegan tradition of cooperation and outreach. This Challenge Grant program recognizes teachers who wish to take a creative and interesting and innovative approach to teach about Native Americans, culturally relevant, and to create these lessons in curriculum. Our tribe has awarded thousands of dollars in grants to over 80 schools throughout our state, touching the lives of almost 5,000 different students. We share our history and culture with our non-Indian neighbors, trying to create the best environment for all, and that's been a goal of our tribe forever, since contact. However, we need to grow this. I believe there is an area where we are lacking so much, states and nationally. We need a national curriculum that tells the true story of how the United States was formed. I guess local and state governments are a start, especially here where I live. That's why I tried to do it in the local areas. This is how we have to do it. You know, Germany requires that every student learn about the Holocaust. What about the cultural genocide that happened here? Again, this is just another reason that I'm grateful for this convention, and it provides us wonderful opportunities to share and to learn and to bring these new ideas and new teachings back to our families, our schools, and our communities. I plan on taking advantage of this, and I look forward to a continued working relationship with the NIEA as we move forward. Look at the workshop schedule. It's amazing. Clearly, the people here adhere to the it is up to us philosophy. When we tell our history, it's long and complex. We have all endured the swinging pendulum of colonial and United States history. Treaty making, reorganization, forced assimilation, removal, termination, re-recognition, currently maybe self-determination and self-governance. But you heard Onawake, we're in trouble, but we can fight it. It's not done. We only have to look right here at southern New England right now, you heard it, to see that the pendulum currently swinging seems to be backwards. We are barely 2 years away from 2020, the 400th anniversary, when the Wampanoag people, decimated by the European disease, still welcomed the Pilgrim Puritans in 1620. Next, yes, good, thank you. As my friend and Mashpee Wampanoag Tribal Vice Chair Jessie Littledoe recently stated, America moves to bite the hand that fed it. She continued, We know that the Mashpee Wampanoag have occupied the same region for over 12,000 years. But what many do not know today is that we are in a struggle to maintain homelands that were placed in trust by the United States of America, Department of Interior. Also lost on most is the level of irony in this situation, that while the tribe struggles to ensure that these lands are not taken out of trust, we, as Jesse said, we, along with 8 other sister tribes, paved the way for the formation of these very United States via treaties and Indian land title, granted to the Pilgrims on lands within the very same territory that is now being stripped away. Jesse also noted the lands of the Mashpee Wampanoag Reservation today represents less than 0.5% of their original territory, a mere scrap of their original territory. And their reservation is vital to their future sustainability as a tribal nation. Undeniably, Jesse, it is very ironic. Very ironic. Mashpee Wampanoag Chair Cedric Cromwell also noted, quote, "I do not believe that our country, this great nation that our tribal citizens have fought and died for, wants to return to the dark days of taking sovereign Indian land away from indigenous peoples. But Mr. Chairman, I pray that you're correct. I pray. But unless our education system teaches this tragic history and teaches about these current policies, our people will not know this. They will not learn it. Education can help wipe out that ignorance. Culturally responsive and relevant education. It's more than just integrating our histories and cultures into our lessons and curriculum. Good. Next. Yes, what do you have? Yeah, I can see that. But that's simply a start. Zanetta Hammond, author of Culturally Responsible Teaching and the Brain, asserts, we need to use our culture learning styles in the classroom. Yes, we do. Our Native students come from an oral tradition culture. This cuts across other cultures as well. Hammond offered 3 tips to make any lesson in any discipline or grade more culturally responsive. Gamify it, make it social, and storify it. I tell you here today, this works. I have used it in my classroom. Games, as Hammond noticed, are the power strategy for a culturally grounded learning because it gets the brain's attention and requires active processing. Now, as we all know, attention is the first step in learning. We cannot remember, we cannot learn or understand if we don't first pay attention. It's a fact, we get it. Those of you in the classroom, parents, families, you all live this reality every day. But most games, teaching games, actually employ a lot of cultural tools that we find in our oral tradition. Repetition, solving a problem, making connections between things that don't seem like they're related but really are. By making it social, we are organizing learning so that our students rely on each other as our communities do. We build our communal orientation. And lastly, she says to storify it. Well, that's a unique phrase, but we get it. Hammond notes the brain is wired for stories and to use the story structure to make sense of our world. That's why we all have our creation stories. Our oral traditions play a significant role in passing on our knowledge, our culture, our ceremonies, our values, how we've come to be. And much, much more, of course. They teach us the sense of community, that we are a bigger part. We are a part of a greater whole. Students can learn this content more effectively if they can create a coherent narrative, a story about the topic being presented. That's the brain's way of weaving it all together. Our oral tradition does just that. And it also incorporates the 4 C's of education. critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. Take a look at the theme of our conference, folks. Cultural, creative, critical thinking. That's what it does. I like these tips, and I found them to be most effective in the classroom for teaching culturally responsibility. They make a lot of sense. You know, just to give you a little sense of how I did that in the classroom, in my Native Studies class, when I was trying to teach about consensus making and perhaps the Haudenosaunee Great Law of Peace as a wonderful model, I would put, and these were mostly non-Native students, I'd put them in groups of the 6 nations or the 5 nations and elder brothers and younger brothers. I don't want to get into the whole thing. And I would give them, this is what they're going to have to do. And, you know, we had 83-minute classes, folks, 83-minute blocks. So it really lent itself for this, okay? But you can imagine, first they had to learn about it, right? You can imagine them trying to get together and going through each nation and they couldn't get there forever. They'd have to send it back because they couldn't come to the consensus. You know what I'm talking about? But I will tell you, they could tell that story and they saw why that could work. You can't do it in 83 minutes, right? Or the federal recognition process. We learned modern topics. Put my class as a federal recognition. So you guys are the tribe and you're going to have to, you're seeking federal recognition. I'll be the BIA, which I like to call the Bureau of Ignorant Administrators. And I said, I'll be the BIA, okay? And you guys have to be a tribe. And so then I'd say, okay, you guys have to prove to me that you have a continuous cultural community from historic times to present, and a continuous political authority from historic times to present. I'm not making fun, but they have fun. And then we can't, well, how are we gonna do that? I don't know, you figure it out, I'd tell them. And then they'd say, but okay, all right, we have a treaty. We know we signed a treaty, we can show them that. I said, well, where is it? Maybe it's in Hartford somewhere. Okay. I said, well, we don't know how to do it. I go, well, you can hire me. I'm no longer the BIA. I'm your attorney, but it's going to cost you about $1,000 an hour. Okay. And they say, we can't do this. I go, now you know how hard it is. But that's just a small thing. So we can do this. We can do this in our classrooms. So I wanted to share with you some of the things that we can do to make it culturally relevant. Clearly, however, this was not part of the education endured by our ancestors at the hands of the English and the Americans. We can look at every century since contact, part of the history we needed to learn too. Christianization was a primary goal of the English in the early contact period. Let's say the 1600s, the 17th century. Attempts to Christianize Indians were not well received by my Mohegans, nor many other southern New England tribes. Ben Uncas told the English that Mohegans have their own way of worshiping, and he asserted that the English were no better off with Christianity, and they would cheat the Indians of their land just as well, which they did. This did not stop them. Education was used in colonial New England here as a means to assimilate Indians into the English culture. In fact, Indian children were regularly placed with non-Indian families and taught Latin, Greek, and other academics. For parents who were resistant to their children receiving a Christian education, an offer was made for the parents to get a new coat every year that their child apprenticed in a Christian house. The goal was to eliminate Indians through Christian education. And this continued into the next century. A Mohegan tribal leader and minister, Samson Occam, is a representative of children on our reservation that grew up in the 1700s without many men. They were lost in a 100-year imperial war. The women had to hold it together. This was a time when suspicion and hatred dictated relationships between European Americans and Indians. When the once powerful Mohegans had dwindled to 350 people. When Mohegans were ravaged by disease and war, plagued by the side effects of colonialism, alcoholism, factionalism, defection, and delusion. Occam, my ancestor, saw that education and Christianity could be a means of escape from this destitution. He attended Eliezer Wheelock's Indian Charity School right here in Connecticut. Later, he worked to fundraise for that very same school for Native education. He felt if he could teach the children, he could give them hope. We can go back one slide for a moment. Did I put the chips on that one? No, I probably didn't. He used chips long before chips to teach the alphabet, long before the kindergarten people did it. He was very innovative. Okay, very innovative. He attended that school. He wanted Native education. He felt if he could teach the children, there would be hope. He spent 2 years, then he spent 2 years traveling in England, to raise more than 13,000 pounds for that Indian school. That was the largest ever raised in a colonial way. And guess who the largest donor was? His name was Lord Dartmouth. Regrettably, Wheelock abandoned his earlier commitment to Indian education and reconstructed that school, moved from Connecticut, took the monies that Occam raised and moved to Hanover, New Hampshire, no longer adhering to the belief of educating Indians. Wheelock instead established Dartmouth College in 1771, again with those funds that Occam raised, not to educate Indian people. By 1784, Occam was so disillusioned by this betrayal, especially given the fact that only 1 or 2 Indian people actually received an education, despite all his efforts. Next slide. And it continued into the next century. Into the 1800s and 1900s, one of the most shameful periods in American history was the Indian boarding schools, which still has lingering impacts on our tribal communities today. An 1886 quote from an Indian school superintendent, John Riley, summed up the pain. Quote, "Only by complete isolation of the Indian child from his savage people can he be satisfactorily educated," really. And I think most of us know Captain Pratt's motto at Carlisle, "Kill the Indian, save the man." Our children were forcibly removed from their families. They were abused and unable to practice their culture. Families who refused to send their children were penalized by incarceration or withholding rations, and they were confined to the reservations that didn't allow them to traditionally hunt. It was not so long ago, people, that states like Virginia had laws against educating Native people beyond the 8th grade. Many of our students are still plagued by the very same conditions endured during the times of Uncas, of Sassacus, of Miantanamo, and Massasoit in the 1600s, and Occam and Tecumseh and Lalawithaka in the 1700s, and the boarding school children of the 18 and 1900s. But we have a modern twist today. We have the historical trauma from that past that still haunts us. Attendance problems, high poverty schools, higher rates of substance abuse, incarceration, suicide, school discipline problems, expulsions, suspensions, limited access to health care, and no access to broadband for learning due to the remoteness of many tribal lands. Only under 10% have that. This is just to name a few. Nonetheless, we are in the process of overcoming this national tragedy by active nation rebuilding efforts. Now is the time, the key time, for our collective advocacy goals to be advanced with a much even greater sense of urgency. We are faced with budget cuts, you heard it, and disposition, this word, school choice, you'll hear it, at the expense of our public schools, including BIE schools. Let us remember that the vast majority of our students, 93%, attend our public schools, and any threat to them threatens a large portion of our students. It is often said that budget is policy in action. Budget is policy in action. So if this is the case, it seems like there's a lot of inaction right now, for sure. We all know what's happening. We all know what's happening to the federal and state education budgets, especially the dollars of BIE schools and Title VII Indian, Native Alaskan schools as well. This is not the priority of our current administration. Cuts to spending stress an already stressed system. But it's a new day. the teachings of my medicine wheel. It's a new day, the east, the sun rises in the east. Every day is a new day. Many promising developments and practices are now being seen in Indian country that will serve all of our nations well into the future. The proliferation of language programs to protect and restore our native languages is one example. We at Mohegan just started there this year, this spring, after many years of hard work and help. And then we received the help of Mashpee Wampanoag teacher. Next slide, Mashpee Wampanoag teacher. I want to give Jessie a shout out, okay? Jessie Littledoe, who is working as our teacher in our Mohegan language immersion classes, so we can teach Mohegan apprentice teachers and get them to learn. It all starts with our language. Language is our identity. Language is central to who we are. And speaking our language is the right of all Native Americans. Yes. I am so grateful for these immersion classes. Additionally, we're seeing the establishment of tribal colleges that are leading the way, okay, to blend academic rigor with culture, and Native cultural centers at non-tribal colleges to work with our students and help our tribal students adjust to parts of the country that is not their home. This is part of our active rebuilding efforts, as is engagement by our Native students in advocacy around issues of social justice, raising a light to issues that are affecting our Native communities. Some of our Mohegan youth traveled in support of Standing Rock and went out and traveled there. So I conclude and I return back to my point about the lack of a state and local and national curriculums that tell this true story of our nation's history. As most likely with you, this has been a big issue that we have been discussing here in Connecticut. I turn to Larry Spotted Crow. Larry Spotted Crow Man of the Nipmuc Nation, author of The Morning Road to Thanksgiving. It is, by the way, look at the book cover, it's a favorite of mine. Using it in the classroom, it's fabulous. It's fabulous, folks, if you can get your hands on one of these. His character, Nimpao, gives us so many teachings to this very issue. Remember, our learning is a two-way street. We can grow, we grow and learn as well. Listen to the words of Nimpao as he spoke at Plymouth at the day of mourning ceremony. Quote, "My life was not easy. I suffered because of the ignorance of others, not understanding who we are, as I am sure many of you here know what I mean. They had to see my father suffer from that same ignorance, and it was more than I could bear. So I spent most of my life staying away from my own land and hating the white man. Recently, I came home to try to end their Thanksgiving, where it all started. But as I made this journey home, I began to realize some things as I listened to the words of my elder, Healing Otter. All these years of anger and hate has cheated my own spirit. We don't need to end their Thanksgiving. What I remember most about being an Indian kid is all the family and love around the home, relatives just getting together with a drum and a potluck meal, and we were happy. I think that to most Americans, Thanksgiving is just that, and people coming together to share a good time, to share love. Why would anyone want to stop that? But what we do want to stop is the ignorance and injustice. Nimpao continued, "So I say this to you, the United States of America, we still have much work to do. Massasoit dreamed big. He dreamed of unity, that unity could happen, that it was meant to happen. On this huge and abundant continent that my ancestors gladly shared when they had with the new arrivals, it is our traditional way. But now Indians are swept aside in the far corners of society, and mostly only being mentioned around this time of year. So, after all your turkey is gone, and the football game has ended, and you've eaten the pumpkin pie, think of us and learn the truth. We need those curriculums. But not with fake images and stereotypes. Think of us and see us. Similarly, our Mohegan medicine woman Gladys Tantaquidgeon, who lived from 1999 to 2005, built with her father and her brother in 1931 the Tantaquidgeon Museum. They built it with their own hands. It is the oldest Indian-owned and operated museum in the United States. Chief Harold Tantaquidgeon said that the goal was to teach our people. This is what our chief said. Teach our people. Yes, we have to teach our people too. That's the thing I always just say in school too. Don't assume just because someone is Native that they know Native history. Think about our history and why they don't, especially, even, I used to say, do you know all your American history? Clearly not. Sorry. The goal was to teach our people, as well as our neighbors, about our Mohegan people and culture. He said this, and it's a motto of our people and of that museum. He said it is harder to hate someone you learn and know about. He said that. One day he said, when these kids grow up, if we continue, we need to continue, and it becomes time for them to vote on Indian issues, maybe they'll know enough to vote the right way. Things must improve. We must give our children a better tomorrow. Indeed, Chief Tantaquidgeon, kapatamon tamawish. If there was more education about our First Peoples in the United States, perhaps there would be more understanding among our citizenry, as well as our legislators. It would bring to life for non-Indigenous people not only the struggles, but the resilience of American Indians and Alaskan Natives. It would also help to explain why the United States has a trust obligation and treaty obligations for our people. Education can sensitize the American people to how our people's past was, but it can give us hope that ignorance and stereotypes will no longer be an issue. This is my hope, passed to me from my ancestors. This is my hope, to continue to create local curriculums, to share, to go to our schools. This is my hope, to create that state curriculum. This is my hope, to create a national curriculum, passed to me from my ancestors, from my tribe. This is my dream. People, we've got this. We have to, so that we are present, so that we are visible, not absent and invisible in the classroom. Katapatamon tamawish wamiskitambak. Natiwi shompawi noits. Wuchi mahigarax. I am mourning deer of the Mohegan tribe, and I am proud to say that in my language. I am proud to be here with you today because now is our time. Now it is up to us. Thank you. Katapatamon tamawish.
Secretary and Justice Regan, thank you for your inspirational work and words. On behalf of NIEA, we are providing you with a gift and as a token of our appreciation. I would also like to say, a personal anishik for the work and that you're doing, your powerful words. They're very inspirational as we work. Your work and what you speak are exactly in line with one another. And for that, you took a critical challenge and made it fun and easy and advisable to youth all the way up to adults. So thank you for that. We really appreciate that. In a moment, our board secretary will tell you about the 3 voting opportunities available to voting members at the convention. Before we get to this important process, a huge thank you to our gold level sponsors. Without their support, NIEA would not be able to provide the convention we are attending this week. Our gold level sponsors are the Walton Family Foundation, National Education Association, University of Phoenix, Choctaw Nation, American Federation of Teachers. Please join me in thanking our gold level sponsors. Now please welcome Margaret Landon, the Secretary of the Board, to the stage to share with you about the Board of Directors election, resolutions, voting procedures, and Constitution and bylaw amendments.
Nawa NIEA. Heisha Adisht. Hello, good morning NIEA. Good to have Margaret Landon. Sabach Dine Naragash Daganu. Dadi Sahnish Hidatsa and Asinavoin. As the NIEA Secretary, it is my role to provide a brief overview of Board of Directors elections. Every year, the NIEA's convention, we provide a space for our membership to vote on new Board of Directors. Membership will be able to vote tomorrow in Exhibit Hall A pre-function area from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Similar to last year, we will vote on board candidates through ballots. We encourage you to meet the board candidates during these two following times. The first meet and greet is being hosted Thursday in room 24 from 1 to 2:15 p.m. The second meet and greet will be hosted during the Friday morning coffee break from 10:45 to 11 a.m. on the 11-3 pre-function area, Tradeshow hallway. We have 4 talented and dedicated individuals running for our general board member seats. I will introduce each candidate, and then they will have 2 minutes to speak on their qualifications and interests for serving on the NIEA board. Our Treasurer, Marita Hines, and Vice President Christopher Bardot will be assisting me as we time our candidates to keep everyone on track. Please join me in welcoming Bernadine Atchison.
My name is Bernadine Atchison. I am a tribal citizen of the Kenaitze Indian tribe and sit as the vice chair. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak and share what I will be bringing to the National Indian Education Association. First, I would be a voice from Alaska on our challenges and successes. Second, how important it is for us to embrace partnership to advance Native education within our communities and at all levels of government. And third, we need to support each other and laterally collaborate in protecting our sovereign inherent rights. Educational disparities are in all of our communities, and that is why I'm here today. There are 3 areas that I feel strongly about: language and culture based on education, building tribal schools, and providing a safe learning environment. To elaborate a little on each of these, living our culture and speaking our language is us being sovereign. It identifies who we are and how we fit into our communities. It establishes our foundation and roots that guides us through life. Building tribal schools is us acting on our self-determination, in that we identify what our children's needs are and to surround them with the tools that promote knowledge and the confidence to strive to rise to their full potential. And lastly, providing a safe learning environment. I share this out of respect for my family. In March of this year, my great niece committed suicide in her school. This was due to bullying and threats made on her life. She was 11 years old. My great niece was not Athabascan or Alaska Native. She was a tribal member from the Wisconsin area. So you see, we are all connected, and we are stronger by all of us working together from coast to coast, from east to the Northwest in the advancement of Native educational systems that are safe, so that we are safe and culturally appropriate for all of our communities. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you, Bernadette Atchison. Next, we have Brian Jackson.
Say abuju chi abnis cause was with him swag do was not bidon. Get my do with the costume go when them no go peg chicken dason, mid up mask candy no wa. Then it comes me over so much guy chegi wood. Zana winnie mishnum, Zana winnie mission bijikin oma. Magician them a scouzy wood, magician them a scouzy one. Magician down that moan. Ghana winnie mishnum, Ghana winnie mission num goom. Me bang on dap on the old same one with the call them bongy duke. No how me which GRB. I want to greet you in my Schnabby Indian, my big buck. I come from the Fish Clan in Lac-du-Flamme, Wisconsin, Ojibwe, and also with Bad River and Lac Reserve communities. And I just want to borrow that quote that I seen earlier that our spirit does not speak English. And one of my elders had told me one time, he says that if we don't have our language, we're only ancestors of our peoples. So that's one of my focuses. Is revitalizing our languages in our communities. I'd like to acknowledge Wisconsin, where I come from, and my Menominee brothers shared a story with me about their success of their revitalization efforts, where they had a 2-year process of folks that had been trained as apprentices for 2 years, and now they're starting to see the fruit of their success, where they're being disseminated in their communities and their schools as a big part of their efforts. And also, finally, I want to mention that I do serve as a Wisconsin Education Association Board President. I've been fortunate the opportunity for 13 years now. And also one of the big things with that language revitalization efforts, I want to build professional development within our schools, with administrators and teachers, because I work in Lac-du-Flamme, we have 4 Caucasian administrators, there's myself, so we need more Native administrators to represent our ways of being. Miigwech, miu.
Wickosted, Brian Jackson, thank you. Next, we will have Lori Quigley.
I send you much greetings and a very deep sense of inner peace to all of my relations. I greeted you in my Seneca name, Yantas, which means she climbs. I'm Lori Quigley. I'm a member of the Wolf Clan of the Great Seneca Nation of Western New York. And I bring greetings with you. Thank you, Yahweh. Our traditional teachings teach us, instruct us to every day to greet each day with thanksgiving and honor for all of our blessings. And our traditional teachings, the Gaiweo, also teaches us to think with a good mind and a good heart in all that we say and do, with the philosophy of thinking out 7 generations, that everything we say and everything we do has an impact 7 generations out. I am very blessed to have been working in some arena of Indian education for over 40 years, from a 17-year-old who worked and taught in our tribal nations GED programs to tribal education director for a number of years, to being a professor in the State University of New York system, to mentoring many Native students along the way, and to also serving on the National Advisory Council on Indian Education. I hope that I can bring to NIEA many years of experience in teacher education, because we need more Native teachers. And also my experience as a higher education administrator, because we need more emphasis on higher education for our Native students. The best thing, though, I have to say in my life is that in a month I'm going to turn 60 and I'm going to be an Oxode, a grandma for the first time. So I'm very happy with that. Yahweh, thank you.
Wickosted, Lori. Our final candidate is Sylvia Hussey.
Aloha. My name is Sylvia Hussey. I'm Native Hawaiian and Japanese. My mother is Rose Pilipi. She comes from, and where I was born and raised, in Kohala on the Hawaii island. My father's family is from Hiroshima, and his family immigrated here. My grandmother was a picture bride who came and married my grandfather on the docks and went to raise their family on sugar plantations on Hawaii Island. As I seek to serve a second term on the board of directors here at NIEA, my platform is the same as it was. First, to perpetuate Native languages. Second, to amplify family and community voices. Third, to advance culture-based education. Fourth, to intensify systems engagement. And that just simply means that our families and communities exist in more than education spaces. We care about health, housing, social services, all the things that are important and valuable to strengthen our families and communities. Part of my experiences with the board has had the privilege of serving as treasurer for 2 years in 2015 and 16, and being able to serve as vice president in 2017. I've had the great pleasure to serve and work alongside your hardworking board members who have developed strategic plans and budgets and projections and great efforts. I humbly ask for you to vote, and so that I may continue to serve in the capacity of building education nations and realizing educational sovereignty for our people. Mahalo.
Waco State, Sylvia Hussey. Please give another round of applause to our candidates for coming up here and giving their speeches. And please get out and vote when it's time to vote, not only here today, but actively getting out in your state and voting Native vote. Please get out the vote. This concludes our Board of Director candidates introductions. Now please welcome our President, Dr. Jolene Bowman, back to the mic. Thank you. Nawa.
Anishik, Margaret, and candidates. And thank you to our current board members. Our NIEA board, please stand. As I say your name, Robin Butterfield, Winnebago Tribe of Nebraska, Chippewa, President-elect. Christopher Bordeaux, Saginaw, Lakota, Vice President. Marita Hines, Tesuque Pueblo, Treasurer. Margaret Landon, Mandan and Arikra, Hidatsa, Secretary and Student Board Member. Angie Butler, Confederate Tribes of Siletz, General Board Member. Virginia Dry Romero, Kaibab Band of Paiute, General Board Member. Samantha Eldridge, Navajo Nation, General Board Member. Derek Franklin, Dene, General Board Member. Dr. Renee Holt, Dene Nimipu, General Board Member. Michael Vendiola, Swinomish, Lummi, and Visayan, General Board Member. Cable Wilkinson, Citizen Potawatomi Nation, Student Board Member. Thank you all for your service throughout your terms. In addition to voting for new members, there are 2 other opportunities for you to provide direction in NIEA's future work. On Friday, we will be voting on the 2018 resolutions. These resolutions will guide NIEA's advocacy work in the coming year. Let us know what you, the members, think is important in Native education. Additionally, some members have already voted electronically for the Constitution and bylaw amendments. If you did not vote online, members can vote in person today, tomorrow, or Friday until 5 p.m. Please join me in acknowledging our silver level sponsors for this convention. Their generosity and continued investment in Native education allows us to organize this year's convention. Please join me in thanking them. Our silver sponsors are Office of Hawaiian Affairs, Akchin Indian Community, Catapult Learning, Pachanga Band of Lusweno Indians, Nellie Mae Education Foundation, Amber and Risk, and Teiseki Pueblo. And thank you everyone for giving the round of applause. Now for the announcements. On Thursday, we will be hosting a listening session entitled How is ESSA Working in Your Community? A listening session on ESSA implementation. If you have engaged or are aware of progress on tribal consultation in your state on ESSA, please consider giving testimony from 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 on Thursday in room 12. Additionally, scheduled concurrently with the last day of our convention on Saturday is the Hartford Marathon. This means there will be some road closures on Saturday starting at 7:30 a.m. that will require you to take different routes to accommodate the marathon runners. The information you see on the slides will be available in our app as well. Before I see people are leaving, I just want to say that from this view, you all look beautiful and wonderful, and we're so proud that you are here and make it. And before you can go on to your workshops, please have fun in education. Education is so complex, and there's so many levels that if we have fun, we can get through it together. Thank you. Anishik. Have a wonderful convention.
Sister of ice and snow, I'm coming to you from the land of my ancestors, from atolls, sunken volcanoes, undersea descent of sleeping giants.